Welcome everybody to Zeta Global Radio. I am your host, Lainie Sevante Wulkan, and I don't know if the right word is jumping out of my skin. Whatever it is, I'm bursting with excitement today to share with you this wonderful, wonderful topic. Because I, of course, as an intuitive reader, when I'm not here hosting, talk about animals so often in everything that we do, from signs to signals to look up your totem to speaking to your guides, and couldn't think of a better person truly, honestly, to give us more of that guidance, to lead us down that path, to open up our hearts and minds, as Bernadette King, who is here today to share her wisdom. And she's got plenty of it, including all that she's putting into her brand new ARC deck that I can't wait to talk to you about, and of course show you more about it on our ZetaGlobalRadio.com and Facebook pages. So lot to cover today, and I'm going to let her tell you about her background instead of reading a bio, because I want to get right into it. Please welcome to the show, Bernadette King.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. What a warm welcome. It is such an honor to be on your show, and I'm just so very grateful for the opportunity to share more about the animal allies and the ARC with your listenership. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you. And I love how Spirit sort of aligned our paths to cross together, and I am an absolute animal. There was a time I had 7 animals, and people know that we keep a huge brood. So you're speaking my language, and I'm just so excited to learn more about you and let our listeners know everything. And yes, we will get into that stunning deck that you've probably seen on Kickstarter and all over Facebook and all social media. But I thought what we would do is maybe just start with a little bit of a background. I know you do so many things, and you do psychic mediumship, and you do shamanism and all these great things. But I want to say to our listeners, not everybody begins that way. They have a spiritual awakening, and some people are born into a family that way. So I thought maybe you'd give a little bit of background, what has led you to where you are in your connection with animals.
Sure. Well, like a lot of readers that I talk to, I was kind of a kooky kid. So, communicating with animals and being more comfortable around animals as a child was really my thing. And I grew up in the very rural South, like literally the kid that grew up in a trailer in the middle of the woods. And
wow.
Yeah, really, truly. And so eventually my path took me into the entertainment business, and I managed child and young adult actors in what I call Hollyweird for many, many years. And then my mom was killed due to medical negligence, and it set me on such a spin that I just kind of walked away from the business and started walking. I didn't know that I was walking toward it at the time. I just was really looking for answers. We weren't a particularly religious or spiritual family, and so when she was gone, I didn't really know what to do. She was just gone, and I'm pretty hard-headed. I'm a triple Scorpio, so I was going to find her. I wasn't willing to believe that that people that you love just disappear. So I spent about a year going to every psychic, medium, tarot reader, rune thrower, crystal talker that I could lay my hands on, because it had been suggested by a friend of mine. And by the end of that year, I knew that I wanted to be a light worker for the rest of my life. And that's how it started. So
that was your walkabout.
It really was. It really, really was. And so, I'm a research-based person, and so I looked around and thought, okay, well, evidential mediumship seems to be how people get started in tarot, so let me take some tarot reading classes and buy a few decks, and let me take an evidential mediumship class, with somebody classically trained through the Spiritualist Church and, the Arthur Findlay College in England. And that was it. Really kind of the rest is history, but I'd always searched for ways to incorporate the animals into everything, because when I was starting this 20-something years ago, there just wasn't a lot out there. And, of course, I was a disciple of Ted Andrews. I just thought, the sun rose and set in that fellow's eyes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everything of his I could get my hands on. I bought his deck every time a new animal deck came out. So here we are, all these years later, and I'm still doing all of that work, but along the way, somebody introduced me to shamanism, and I said, well, if that's all it takes to be a shaman, I've been a shaman since I was a kid.
Exactly. Well, wow, that is actually me. Before you go on, I want to have you explain evidential mediumship, because people hear psychic mediumship, but not many people always use the term evidential, and I wanted just to clarify that for our listeners.
Sure. So the term evidential mediumship originates in the spiritualist church, and loosely translated, basically it means being able to produce specific evidence that proves life after death. For me, in my own practice, and when I teach, psychic or mediumship development, I'm always urging students, and I always push myself, that it's not enough to have someone show up at a reading. They tell you they'd like to hear from their father, and the first thing you tell them is, he wants you to know he's proud of you, and he's surrounded by angels. Now, those things may be true, but it's a lot. I have found over the years that it is much more meaningful to a sitter if you can say, your dad is telling me that you'll know it's him because Mom used to cook him a fruit cake that wasn't like a traditional fruit cake, like a Claxton fruit cake, but it's round and it's got dark dots all the way through it. It's a fruit cake, but not a traditional fruit cake. Do you understand this? Yes, his favorite dessert was a tomato soup cake with raisins all through it that Mom used to make him. That's evidence. And so whether in a psychic reading or a mediumship reading, I consider it my duty to stay in my personal honor system and my personal ethics system and the relationship that I've built with the spirits on the other side, to be able to give sitters evidence that corroborates they are having a visitation, and that if they're seeking specific information, that the evidence that's sent through from the other side will help both them and me understand that if they say, well, should I take the job in North Dakota or should I take the job in Florida? If it's told to me they should take the job in Florida, well, evidence has preceded that, and both of us can trust in that message a little bit more strongly.
Nice. Beautiful. Thank you for that. That is fantastic. So do you have the ability to go in? I know you're also an animal communicator, to connect with animals. I know many people are so, of course I am too, really attached to those, our beautiful beloved four-leggeds, both here and those that have passed. What is that like for you?
Well, we all have that ability, and yes. And most recently, I had an encounter where I do some volunteer work at a teaching facility near here called Mystic Jungle, and their head keeper called me one day and said, "Hey, listen, could you see if you could get anything from our white tiger?" And I said, "Okay, la 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 la, don't tell me anything else." So when I connected with this tiger, because you can, it's just like calling someone. We're basically big cell phones shoved in a meat suit, right? So I just traveled and found her energy and asked her nicely to speak with me. She did, and we had a cup of tea in the etheric, and she told me some things that had gone on for her and why she particularly has a problem with men who wear hats and some other things. And so when I went to their facility for the first time, I said, okay, well, I'd like to be introduced to this white tiger. And they said, okay, well, you're going to want to stand 3 feet back. You're going to want to this. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to need to do that. And when I came around the corner, I telepathically said to this tiger, hi, it's Bernadette. It's so nice to meet you. And she looked at me for a second, and she got up and she came down off of her big box, and she started chuffing and rubbing up and down the fence. And the keeper just looked at me, and I said, you might think this is because you're here. I said, but why don't you just go outside the enclosure and don't let her see you, and then just kind of peek through the fence and let's see where we get to. And she left, and the tiger watched her leave, and she just came up to me, and her attention was fully on me. And then when I told the keeper some of the history that she had, the keeper was able to corroborate much of that history. Some things she couldn't, but some things she could, and we were able to get some answers of why. Again, she doesn't particularly care for men in hats, and I came to find out that it's a highly unusual situation, as in never before, that she didn't lunge or hiss at newcomers coming into that part of the enclosure. So it's possible for everyone to do this. It's just a matter of believing that you can, and it's just also a matter of focus and practice. And I'll tell you who really helped me with that is a guy named Joseph McMoneagle, who is arguably the most famous remote viewer of all time. And between he and Ingo Swann and a couple other fellows, they ran the Stargate program for the federal government for many, many, many years and did millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of research, psychic research. And I learned so much from that man. It literally changed my psychic life. So
powerful. I have chills on that story, and I'm captivated.
Well, but everyone can. We really all do have the ability, and if we will just believe it and focus on it, I've seen some pretty miraculous things come from people who poo-pooed the whole thing. You know, like I have a really good friend who's a neuroscientist, and he and I debate this over margaritas all the time, right? That he's just convinced that some people are so sensitive that they can put together so much information without even knowing it, that they think they're being psychics, but what they're really being are cold readers. And I wouldn't argue with him based on what very little I know of neuroscience. I wouldn't argue with that. What I would argue is that I don't care what microfacial expression someone shows you, how are you going to come up with something like, he's telling me that she used to bake him a fruitcake that wasn't a traditional fruitcake, and it ends up a tomato soup cake with raisins in it, an old Southern favorite, was his favorite dessert. How do you come up with that? So I think there's a mixture of both.
Yeah, no, I think so too.
Yeah, eventually we'll know it all. Not today, but eventually.
I think we have time for one more question before we take a break. And you mentioned earlier your animal allies. I know when in my world and many other people who listen to the show, they have their spiritual team, they have their spiritual guides, they have their certain ascended masters, they have their certain, Hindu gods and goddesses. Tell me, is that along the same line, or do you have a certain team up there? Or, tell me what that means, animal allies, just so for clarity for everybody.
So this is a belief. I can't prove this, but here's what I believe. I believe it's possible that we have all been everything in one incarnation or the other. We might have been a god or a goddess. We might have been an animal. We might have been a plant, a fairy, a gnome, a whatever. And through all of that, you gather friends. And through all of the many, many incarnations that we've had, we gather a soul group or a family. And when we're in an incarnation here on this physical plane, they look after us. That's what I believe. And so when I say animal allies, I, just like you would have, particular angels that look in on you, or your ancestors that, you have a connection with in this particular moment in your history, that's who you call on. Now, having said that, I will tell you that I've seen all kinds of animals show up for people in the strangest places, in the oddest circumstances. And so I would encourage everybody to know that the best way to get your animal allies to present to you is to do not have what I call sexy spirit animal syndrome. Everybody wants a wolf, right? Everybody, wants the eagle and all of this. But one day I had a praying mantis show up for a guy, and I was like, listen, dude, I got to tell you, I don't think you're going to like this spirit animal, but I am seeing a praying mantis as large as you are stand next to you, and he's telling me that you've got to focus on being still. Do you understand this? You've got to be able to be completely still for much larger periods of a time. And the guy busted out laughing and said, what's so funny? He said, I'm a professional poker player. So, wow. Why did a praying mantis show up for that guy? We could be on the show for 4 or 5 hours, me giving you theories about it.
No question.
But I think it's probably just as simple as we've been around forever, for infinity, and we've made friends along the way who look out for us now.
Beautiful. Perfect timing. We're going to take a quick break. Please, everyone, listen to our wonderful Zeta Global Radio sponsors who make this all possible. We will be back in a moment. Muscle Tuners International Incorporated presents the Energy Boost Self-Care Specialist Program. Become one today and facilitate others to use self-care techniques for energy, vitality, and resilience. Feel the body electric and experience more strength, flexibility, and mobility after a daily routine of these amazing techniques. They are easy to do and as important as exercise, drinking clean water, eating nourishing foods, and sleep. For more information and to register for this online and in-person program, go to muscletuners.fit. Please note there is limited seating for their first in-person seminar in Fort Myers, Florida on April 13th. Be one of the first Energy Boost self-care specialists in Florida today. Reserve your seat now at muscletuners.fit.
Theta healing is an energy modality that targets not only physical health issues, but also the underlying thoughts and emotions. It clears emotional roadblocks to bring us to full health and happiness. With an extensive background as a psychotherapist, spiritual coach, and Theta healing practitioner, Patty Wilson brings great empathy and insight to both her individual clients and the students she teaches to become certified Theta healing practitioners. Right now, as a special offer exclusive to ZGR listeners, Patty is offering a reduced price of $120 a session for both telephone and in-person appointments for new clients only. That's going to run through January 31st, 2019. If you are ready to learn more about how Theta healing can help you or your clients, please visit www.spiritualcoaching.ca or email spiritualcoach@hotmail.com today.
Are you experiencing pain in your everyday life? Do you feel like you are alone and no one understands you? Pain Help is a mind, body, and soul transformational program that can help you. Call Christy Owen now for a free consultation. 630-740-0312. 630-740-0312.
Welcome back to Zeta Global Radio. Thank you so much for being here today. We are still one segment full and ready to get deeper into the world of animal magnetism. So Bernadette, we're talking about our guides today and how to work with them. So we can maybe get into that. I know that so often there's lots of decks out there, and we're going to get into yours. There's lots of people who say, oh my God, I saw a rabbit today. I saw a deer. I saw, for me, one day I saw 50 alligators, and I go down the same alley and there's none, and suddenly there were 50. So immediately we go into what is the symbolism? What is your totem? Can you just talk a little bit about that? Because this is not just a new concept from Native American to Egyptian. This has been a global culture and part of our upbringing. Just maybe you want to share a little bit about that history and how we can actually work and call in the guides that are specifically for us.
Sure. So I'm so happy that you said that spirit animals are a multicultural kind of thing. I find that many people have a misconception that they belong solely to the Native American culture, and that's not true. Mm-hmm. Animals have been absolutely, our lives have been so intertwined with animals. At first, we used them to be able to live, and in so many different ways, and now we still do that, and also so many other things for emotional support and therapy, and you get it, all the ways. So, right. So because of that, so many cultures have honored the sacrifice that animals have given for, millions and millions of years, that there's become a deeply spiritual connection to them. And somebody somewhere, got hip to the fact that animals are going to send signals just like you might get a signal from the stars or from a plant or from an ancestor. And so I'm a big believer that if it catches your attention, it's meant to have your attention. So you may pass by that rabbit and never see it, but if you saw that rabbit and took note of it, here are some things you want to take note of right away. What color of it? What direction was it facing? How many rabbits were there? What's the emotion that came over you when you saw that rabbit? What did you immediately associate that rabbit with? And then you want to look up what the rabbit's, basic symbolism and meaning. And even so far as just mentioning rabbits, well, they've got their symbolism and meaning, but they're also one of the Chinese zodiac signs, so don't discount that. Dig into that and then figure out what that means for you. Now, when I started doing this work some time ago, the Animal Allies asked me to take their teachings deeper, because mostly what folks do is they go into a meditation, they meet their animal spirit guide, and then they talk about it and they journal, or they talk about it with a group and find out what that visitation meant for them. But we can do so much more with those teachings. So the Animal Allies asked me to create a new system of working with their energies, which is this. The terms spirit, totem, and power animal are interchangeable depending on what culture that you are getting the information from. But just for the purposes of working with their teachings, I was asked to divide them. So a spirit animal is the animal or animals that come to you when you need them most. So if you're working on self-development and you happen to see, just a very quick story. I did a reading for a gal one time, and she wanted to know what her spirit animal was. And I said, well, I'm seeing the most beautiful white swan. And she said, that doesn't resonate with me at all. She was really emphatic about it, right? So I said, well, sorry, but that's what I'm seeing. And I said, and the more you're telling me no, the larger the swan is getting. And if you've never been around swans, they're big and they're loud and they're really aggressive. And this swan wants you to know you are a white swan. Well, when I said it like that, it reminded her of her mom. And she said, well, the only thing that I can think of is that my nickname from the time I was a kid, and this woman's in her 40s, was Ugly Duckling. Well, immediately my heart just crashed for this woman. Who calls their kid Ugly Duckling? But the bottom line is that the Animal Allies wanted her to know she's never been that ugly duckling, and she certainly is not now. She's a beautiful white swan. So at that moment, that was her spirit animal. That was the animal that came to her because she needed to know that. Your totem animal, again, this is my method based on what the Animal Allies taught me, right?
You're touching on the question I think I'm thinking, but I'm feeling it for the audience, is do we only have one spirit animal? But now is that what you're saying, that there's different animals for different reasons?
Different animals for different reasons, for different seasons.
Okay.
And you can have more than one as a spirit animal.
Sure.
Your totem animal, I think you can have more than one totem, and here's why. We can't discount our zodiac signs, right? So I'm literally a triple Scorpio, and as much as I love all of Mother Gaia's creatures, it's not like I particularly resonate with scorpions, but from the time I was a kid, I've been obsessed with bears. So before I knew anything about metaphysics, I just was crazed about bears. Then one day I looked up my name etymology, and Bernadette is the French counterpart. It's the feminine of the French name Bernard, which specifically translated means brave, strong bear. And if you knew me, I'm built like a bear. I've got the temperament of a bear. Everything in my life is like very bear-like. So that's my totem, but the Scorpio is my totem, the snake is my totem, and the eagle is my totem based on my zodiac sign. And in the Native American, you've got a Chinese zodiac sign and a Native American zodiac sign. And so your totem is who you are. And that's the animal you most identify with. And I believe that can be more than one. Now, your power animal is something I've been doing a lot of work with people, and the results are just, I'm so grateful to be witness to it, because your power animal, we're all connected, right? We share a lot of DNA pairing with animals and plants. We have probably been multiple animals in our many lifetimes, future lifetimes, past lifetimes, and so we really are all one. If you need courage and you can't look in the mirror and find that, you can find that lion or that whatever animal represents courage to you based on whatever kind of courage you need. Maybe you need the courage to shut your mouth and stay quiet in a situation where you just want to scream your head off. That's one kind of animal. What's one kind of courage and one kind of power animal that you invoke from inside of you. You transmute, you transform into, and I got that from acting. It's very much like acting. When someone plays, someone plays a character that they're nothing like in real life, they can find that part of themselves that is that character, and they can morph it into that character. So that's what power animal work is like when you work with me. And again,
beautiful.
Yeah. So again, these teachings were sent to me by the other side. It's not like I woke up one day and went, hey, this sounds like a good plan. Because I kind of thought it was kooky when I first heard it, but then I tried it out in classes. They were right.
Well, this plan is taking you on an entirely prolific journey, if I should say so myself. When I saw a copy of your upcoming tarot deck, I was probably like everybody else, my jaw dropping of not only visually, but energetically. I thought it was absolutely masterful. And I know you have a Kickstarter going, and let's just talk all about it. We have the rest of the show to talk all about your upcoming beautiful art cards, because they are, again, mind-blowing, beautiful in all ways. So go for it.
I'm very honored. However, let me say about the visual part of it, these cards would not exist if it weren't for the incredible visionary artist, Heidi Sutherland. She's pretty incredible, and it's been a real journey for both of us, because before working on the art, she'd never worked in a collaborative partnership with anyone. Basically, people hired her, she made the art, and that was that. And so these cards have really been an evolution. And we looked through over 30,000 images of real animals to find just the right animals. We adjusted colors, sizes. My gosh, you can't even know what we did to bring these cards to where they are now. But the point of them is at every step of the way, it's all been directed by the animals at every step of the way. Both of us have really just kind of stepped aside and let the animal kingdom tell us what they liked and what they didn't like. And that's how we got to where we are.
Well, it's more than just the animals on there. I mean, I'm just looking on your Kickstarter right now of the Raven, and you have this amazing Stargate behind the Raven. I mean, there's so many mystical symbolisms and sacred geometries and flowers of life. And so let's talk about maybe the esoteric aspects of it. I mean, did they say bring these in? Are these elements, or did you feel like you wanted to pair them up, or how did that come together?
Well, to be honest, they talk to me so much that it's kind of hard to tell sometimes what's an inspiration in my own head or what was sent to me. So yeah. I would say a mixture of both. But what I will say is this deck started out to be just an oracle deck. And I don't mean just an oracle deck in a negative way, but I was like, okay, well, 50-50 play of cards, I'm done. And then the animals came to me in a meditation and said, that's not enough. We need more of us to be in there. We need 100 cards. And why don't you go ahead and make it a tarot deck so that in working with the animal energies, you can use it as a traditional tarot deck, but they didn't want so much tarot, they didn't want the tarot symbolism to take away from their energy, their medicine, their teachings. So we worked very closely to choose the animal whose energy and symbolism most closely matched the particular card. And we've got the name of the card on there, and that's it. We do have some sacred geometry. We do have that key at the bottom so that, if you're a reader and you're not really drawn to the tarot, but you keep seeing a triquetra, you might have a client sitting in front of you who may be traveling to the UK in the next few weeks and wants to know how the trip is going to go, or who has a Celtic background, or maybe the number 3 of the triquetra, the 3 points, maybe they're moving on the 3rd of the month or whatever. So they wanted me to put in enough subtle cues that it could be like a springboard for people's intuition, with them being the central focus. And so you don't have to pay attention to the tarot meanings at all. You could just use it as an oracle deck. And the cool thing about it is because the tarot is divided into suits, and those suits correlate to to directions, and they correlate to, fire and water and earth and that kind of thing.
Sure, all the elements.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. It's Friday, girl.
You know what? I teach an elements class. I'm in it all day long and every day, and of course, animals come so much involved in the elements. So I'm right there with you.
So if you've got a person coming in and they need to focus on their romantic life or their creative life, you may just want to pull the animals that remind you of the fire element, right? And then for shamanic healings, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to teach people this. It is going to blow their minds, period, end of story. So one of the healing techniques that I teach is chakra healing through spirit, totem, and power animals, where you focus on a chakra that you need help with, you need some healing support with, maybe some alignment, whatever, at balancing, and then you call in the animal that is going to best help you with that. Well, that's been working like you can't even believe in classes. But one of the things that I tried with a sample deck that I got printed was I had a buddy of mine bring a friend who I didn't know and put her on a Reiki table and then flipped a card over each chakra. So once we took time at the end of the session to examine which animal came out of the deck for each chakra, wow, it's a whole new way of doing things. And it was so helpful for this lady. She looked 10 years younger when she left my office. 10 years younger. It just took the weight of the world off this lady. And you should have seen her face at the different animals that showed up for each of her chakras. I cannot wait for people to experiment with doing that. And so any of you out there that are listening, any animal deck that you can get your hands on, even if you just write down the name of the animal or whatever, just start to try it, experiment a little bit with it, because the animals will show up and they will do their work.
Wow, thank you. That I am going to try that. I love that. And for those who are absolutely enthralled, like I am, about getting their hands on your deck, how do we go about it, or where? What's the process, or where are we at from here, and how do we move forward?
Sure. So we would love it if you would support our Kickstarter, and it's kickstarter.com/project/the Arc Tarot, all one word. Or you could just Google the Arc Tarot and Kickstarter. Our Kickstarter ends on the 19th, and all of this is a pre-order. The decks will get to me landed by, fingers crossed, at the end of August. It's a long trip across to see you guys. And so you can pre-order them now. Once Kickstarter is over, you could pre-order them directly from my website, whatismyspiritanimal.com, whatismyspiritanimal.com. And then if you just want to wait till August, then, again, you would go to whatismyspiritanimal.com, you would order, and I will very gratefully send your deck to you.
Well, I know that we'll be definitely ordering them, and I will also be putting that information. You can find that on our Facebook page, on our Zeta Global Radio's Deeper Dive Facebook private group. I encourage you all to go in there, because a lot of times we have our guests who've been on our show, and they're in there, and they can even answer further questions, because we can't always get everything we want to talk about in during our show. But there's no question that we will have to do a part 2 and maybe even a part 3 with Bernadette back here on Zeta Global Radio, because there is so much more. I know we barely scratched the surface, but we got some good points in that will get people thinking about the importance of our four-legged, beautiful, not only our domestic, but our wildlife animals. And hopefully that will open up their hearts and minds to see how valuable they are in our lives. Any last thoughts for you? Do you want to share with us, Bernadette?
I want to thank you for having me on the show. It's a great honor. And I do want to mention one more thing. The ARC deck comes with a 300-plus page full-color guidebook. So all of the descriptions of each animal as a tarot card, also its spirit animal meaning is in there. A little bit about numerology, a little bit about astrology, a little bit about color, the directions, the elements, so that if you're a newbie, you can tie it all together and it won't seem overwhelming. Everything is laid out in very easy to understand fashion, and I think that will help everybody who is going to be working with the Ark.
And we're talking about the Ark as in Noah's Ark. Is that the inspiration behind the beautiful title?
Well, yes, the story of the Ark is a really beautiful one, and quite frankly, I needed to name it something that was big enough to hold all of the animals and all of its teachings. So the Ark is the biggest thing I know of. So that's how it got the name.
Perfect. Perfectly appropriate. Okay, so again, here we are Sunday the 14th, and the Kickstarter is ending just in a few days. So go ahead and make yourself to head on over to the Kickstarter for the Ark Tarot deck. Bernadette, thank you so much for being here today. We're so grateful to have you. And of course, another Floridian, which is very exciting. And we hope to have you down, in Southwest Florida. Come visit us. Or I know we'll talk about some ways to share your wisdom and your decks with us here in our part of the world. And thank you so much again for being on the show. I hope you and everybody have a beautiful, blessed week. Thank you very much. Take care.